Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, My Kinda Art, and for today's video, I made this Deadpool several years ago. I used ink pens, markers, and color pencils to create this traditional drawing. So for this tutorial video, I just wanted to show you guys how I turn a traditional drawing like this right here, and I take a photo of it and transfer it onto a program like Procreate, which I like to use to kind of just make things a lot cleaner and better and digitally edit them and clean them up and even paint them that way. So yeah, let's go ahead and clean up this Deadpool. Let's go. Alright, so I began by using a number 2 pencil, and this one, I made sure I drew it very light so that it's easy to erase. And I kind of outlined it so that I was able to get the proportions right, and this is the one that was used for Deadpool's poster for the original film. And I wanted to make sure the proportions were as accurate as possible, so that's why I did take my time with this first. And then one of the next steps was using a red color pencil. And I made sure I laid down the color in a light fashion, a base color, just like I do with everything that I do. Even when it comes to painting, is always to lay down a base color before I go into very deep detail and before I start layering on the pigment, because I want to make sure that everything does look right before I start pressing the pigment inside the paper as hard as I can, because that will be difficult to cover up or erase. And next I used a little bit more pressure to go into the shadows and have a nice contrast between light and dark. And because the shadows are at the bottom where it's coming in contact with the floor, for example on his forearm, his stomach, and his legs, that's why you'll notice a big difference with a cast shadow as well. And one of the things that I actually remember was I lost a lot of the footage. I think it erased everything that I did when I applied the markers. I used Prisma markers on top of almost everything on the color pencil side, where I used black, different grays, and finally finished with this white Jelly Roll pen for the highlights. So now I remember I lost a lot of footage, so that's why it was literally from the beginning to some color pencil and the end. Okay, for the second half of the video, this is where I took a picture of it, I transferred it to Photoshop, and what I did was duplicate the PNG, and as you see all of my layers, I always do that just in case I make a mistake, and I played around with different brushes. But before I did that, I made sure to increase the saturation, the color, and even play around with the brightness just to make sure that the reds are very rich and deep, that we have some nice shadows also before we do anything else. And I did clean up some of the edges on the sides of Deadpool just to clean up the image. And when I finally found the brush that I needed, which was an old skin brush, which just means that it looks like leather and something textured to kind of resemble what Deadpool wears for his red part of his costume, I made sure to use a clipping mask and I put Deadpool right underneath and on top of that, while using the feature called Alpha Lock so that I wouldn't get out of any of the edges of my drawing. And this added a nice texture to the entire thing, and I even played around with this concrete looking texture for his shoulder pads, his gloves, and all those belts and loops that he has, and even part of the eyes and everywhere around where it's a little bit black and gray. And one of the tricks that I learned so that the textures stay right on top and kind of blend in with my original traditional drawing, which was made in color pencil, is to use the multiply layer and also reduce the opacity. So this kind of helps it blend in seamlessly. And I also resize my brush every now and then just to kind of play around with the size of the brush, and especially going into his face where I kind of darkened it almost like a shadow base, and this kind of made it blend in seamlessly. And I even used a little bit of the red into the armor parts, like his shoulder pads, the side of his body, from his stomach, and even the gun area, just to kind of simulate when colors bounce around near each other, just so that it kind of has that lifelike feel with light bouncing. It also keeps everything grounded, meaning that everything together is playing around with the lighting and the colors. And now finally, before I do forget, I did add a shadow underneath the PNG, the original one, which did not have any shadows. All I did was use a soft brush with a medium gray tone and softened it right underneath his stomach, his legs, and his arms to create a soft shadow. But at the very end, all I did was grab another textured brush like the concrete and the old skin, and I went around everywhere in the shadows in between where it casts shadows, like the dark areas under his eyes, the nose, his mask, the swords that he has, the shoulder pads, the gun, everywhere where there's contact shadows with his belts and loops. And this jump in contrast that I made super dark really makes the medium tones like the red and the highlights stand out the most. And this is how I did this Deadpool and cleaning it up in Procreate. So enjoy the rest of this time-lapse video with the feature that's in Procreate from beginning to end. And one of the things that I actually really enjoy doing, my previous Wolverine drawing, if you haven't checked that out, I do have a live on that, and I will be editing that into a time-lapse video, but I added Wolverine as a thought bubble, just kind of playing around with the way the bromance friendship that Deadpool and Wolverine have. And also I just added a quick drawing of those adorable looking animated credit scenes from the original Deadpool films in the background, and that was just kind of fun to do. But yeah, here you can see the entire process, and let me know down in the comment section below what you think. Hit the like button, ring the bell, and leave a comment. And see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.